is the intangible strategery. So what are the nonverbal strategies that might be, you might be thinking about, and judges who are sitting there are looking at and thinking about as well? Well, who's presenting, right? That's one thing they're looking at. I mean, and so a lot of this is subconscious cues, and you want to be able to address that, right? So, who in your group is going to present? Are you going to have the whole group present? Sometimes when you have the whole group presents, it's a little bit of an issue. Are you going to have 2 people present, 3 people present? What are the other people doing, right? What are people wearing? I mean, I would say the vast majority of people have been wearing suits, right? But others haven't worn suits. How do you start? I mean, how do you really begin this whole presentation, right? You're gonna get going. I mean, you start with introducing everybody, and there's different ways of doing it, and we'll see how some of the introductions. And I think the introduction is always a little more difficult because it gets you going, right? That's where your momentum starts, and so you've got to be thinking about in the first 3 minutes. That's probably all. The impressions are being made in those first 3 to 5 minutes with the judges, right? And there's a lot that has to be told to the judges. And so you want to make sure that it's succinct and you're getting it across. Where do you stand? Some people you'd be one person standing up there and then everybody else is sitting down. Okay, that's fine, but I mean, are they looking interested? I mean, should they all be standing? I mean, those are things that your team has to have to figure out. Should you be passionate? Sometimes, being too passionate is kind of overwhelming, but maybe there should be some passion in there. And what happens if you forget what you say? So let's queue up for some of these intros and check them out. So this is Lucid from last year.
Welcome. My name is Jake, and I would like to introduce you to our exciting new company and product, Lucid. First off, I'd like to make note that there are 2 pieces of information you guys are going to need during this presentation, and they're right in front of you. One is a cheat sheet, gives you all the information based on our presentation, and the other is your scorecard. So please keep that in mind. We'd like to share with you all the details today, but first I'd like to announce that we have a beta version that is live and functional, and the best part, we have our first paying customer.
They let off, which I thought was really interesting, is they haven't even, and of course this is not disparaging to any team because I think all the teams did really well, but he actually let off with the fact that they have a sale, they've got a lot going on, but we don't even know what the product is yet, right? So what they did right there, they may have to come back to it, but that gets lost, right? I don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, I just sold, I sold, $1 million in orders, but I don't even know what you're talking about. So that's something to think about is when you're starting, how is that coming across, and what are you saying that you want to really make sure you get across, and when is the right time to actually make that statement?
So as we're all excited to get into the details today, I'd like to first give you a little glimpse at our team and share with you our experience. So we are Team Lucid. We have a very highly diverse team that is skilled, ready, and poised to take this company to the next level. We have over a combined 38 years of operational experience, 22 years in sales and marketing, 11 years in finance, and 10 years in development in IT.
I think it was really interesting that they actually said that. That's the first team I've ever heard say that, and they took their combined experience from the entire team, and they threw it up there. I'm not really sure how that resonates with the judges, because they all look pretty young, right? And so, I mean, are you saying if 30 is any particular one is 38 years? I mean, how's that really working? So again, great, it's interesting, but it may be getting lost on the judges at that point. Okay, this is the next one.
So when our team got together about 4 months ago, we were really excited. We were going to develop the next Facebook. We were going to make $1 billion overnight. We had some great ideas for some apps. We had a good idea for a dating app. We had a better idea for a babysitting app. But I think our best app idea was a dating app that after 5 years becomes a babysitting app. We're really excited about that one.
So that was a joke, kind of the lead in. I'm not sure what that really did. I think the more important thing is he's very confident. He seems like he knows what he's talking about, and everyone over here looks very interested in what is happening over here. And I think that's really important because in other cases you might see that the rest of the team seems to kind of be dozing off with what's going on over here, right? So you want to make sure that if you guys are all sitting down, standing up makes it look like everybody's really excited about it. Sitting down, you just got to be more enthusiastic as you're sitting. I mean, however that happens.
The people on the right are his teammates?
His teammates.
Okay.
Now keep going.
But then we started doing some research about some problems that we as a team really cared about. What we found out was that 1 in 7 people in the world is chronically malnourished. And that problem's only going to get worse. As population continues to grow, population is expected to reach 9 billion people by 2050. In the same time period, agricultural production is expected to decrease by almost 2% a year. Which means to keep pace, we're going to have to do more with less. We're going to have to increase agricultural production by 70 to 100% over the next 35 years.
A lot of facts. That's really good. So it's kind of showing that that they know what they're talking about. But these guys won last year. I think what's interesting is he's never introduced his team. So we don't even know what these people are doing here, right? So that's something else you might want to think about is, do you introduce your team? Do you not introduce your team? You're throwing a lot of facts. He's definitely putting it out there and showing how prepared they are in terms of the facts so that we could make a decision. At least we're getting an idea now that they know what they're talking about. So let's go to the next.
Good morning. My name is Nick Jones, and I am going to be presenting Mad Cow Games. My fellow team members are Tyler Harris, Sarah Phillips, Aaron Ulmer, and Rob Peterson. While we were researching problems that we could address, we started to analyze some emerging trends in the marketplace that we could base a business off. And one of the emerging trends that we noticed was that there was a lot of opportunity in the tabletop game market. Now for tabletop, it can be a board game such as Monopoly or Sorry, or it can be a card game like Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity or Ascension if you're familiar with the deck building game. So throughout the presentation I'm going to refer to tabletop games, and just know that can mean a board game or a card game.
I have no idea right now. There's so much he's taking too long to describe it, and it's now going over my head, right? He's telling me to, look, when I say something, this is what I mean. Well, I have no idea. You're going to start mentioning it, but it's gone beyond me now. So be careful that you're taking too long to tell the audience what your idea is, right? You want to get it out there and you want to let them know, and you don't want to basically impose on your judges the idea that they have to remember something, right? Just I'm going to say this and just remember that that's what I'm saying.
We went to a conference where they were having board games and card games. We started asking questions and mentioning some ideas that we were considering to base a business off of. We came across this guy named Casey, and Casey started to explain to us his game idea and how the difficulties he was having launching the game. And then we realized that we could actually design the next hit tabletop game through using an interactive crowdsourcing model.
All right, I'm still kind of confused as to what's really happening here. So bottom line is you want to get to that idea right away.
Good morning. It is an honor to present to you today, and we are excited to introduce to you a new innovative product and application that will not only save you time, but earn you money. My name is Mark Glutz. Let me introduce you to Bree Parrish, as well as Chase Erkins, and we will be presenting to you, check please. Time. It's important. But yet a lot of it is wasted on a daily basis. Now, to this point, you guys have heard 3 separate companies, and you've visited with them and asked them questions. And we are here to provide for you the opportunity and also the understanding that there is only one company who is worth investing $10,000.
There's one little issue with that. $20,000 is the top price. So what position did they come in? Second. So they got $10,000. So don't make that mistake.
That company stands before you right now. We have the resources, the knowledge, and the marketing experience to be able to not only provide a successful company, but also exceed the angel fund expectations. Now, a short 3 months ago, we came together to solve the world's problems, and we listed a lot of them. However, as we coupled our resources, as we coupled the different people we knew and the networks that we were in, we realized that we had one thing in common, and that thing was the food industry. Not only the food industry, but restaurants.
So the interesting thing about this presentation is I think Mark has a lot of passion, and you can see that kind of coming across, right? So he seems like he's really getting into it. He's really interested. He's excited, and I think that's important because as an investor or as a judge, you get infected with that as well. And it's something you might want to think about is, really being excited about your idea. If you believe it, you should only put people that believe the idea up there to speak. If they don't believe it, that's going to come across as well. So let's go to the slide again, I think. So we just saw the, what do you wear? Who presents? How do you start? Where you stand? You see how different people standing, how much passion. What if you forget what you say? And you saw, Mark just kind of stop and then come back at it. I thought that was good. And then the verbal strategies are what do you need to convey, right? What do you got? What do you need the judges to actually see? Well, they've got to see, the great team over here. So you've got to somehow communicate that you've got a really good team. So you got to introduce the team, maybe. And this is up to you guys, right? You guys do what you want. But it would seem like to me that you would want to know a little bit about what each team member is doing on this team, or is this only a single effort? You also really need a good idea, right? So you're going to have to present that quickly and succinctly to the audience. Tell us what it is, and then come back to it, and then we can kind of flesh it out as we go through it. You need a really good product, right? So you're going to have to show us somehow how this idea has evolved into a product and how it will evolve into a product. A great market, and the reason for the great market is you want a really big market, because if you're starting to struggle in the market and it's really small, there's nowhere to turn. If you're in a big market, now there's more ability to pivot in different directions, and I think that's really important. So when you're sitting there and you're listening to it, and as a judge, you're thinking, okay, I don't think this will work, but this is a really great idea. It's a good product, and the market's big enough that I think that they can actually pivot into something and actually make it work. That could be your saving grace. And then the great execution. And we know that if you can demonstrate that you got a great team, and you have all of this together, and you're more than likely to execute well and also have success. So those are the nonverbal and the verbal strategies you should be thinking about when you get up there to present. And then it kind of fits really neatly with the scorecard, right? So they're going to ask you, and this is straight off of the judge's scoring sheet. Did they describe the nature of the problem they're trying to address? What is the problem? You want to get to it right away. You also want to show how you're going to solve that problem that you have identified. And then what differentiates you from the competition, right? What is so different? And then, how are you going to protect that difference in the marketplace? So going forward, so can somebody catch up to you? Can somebody pass you? What's the market opportunity? I mean, it's got to be a big market, right? What's your strategy for getting out there? What's the go-to-market strategy? Are you going to be, who's your audience? How are you going to sell this? You're gonna, how are you going to market, and who are you going to market to? All that comes into the sales strategy, and then the final thing is the financials. And most people discount the financials, but remember that if it's not going to make any money, then you got a big problem. So you're going to have to figure out how this particular product that you've just come up with is actually going to make money. Because it sounds great, and I think a lot of people might like it, but they may not pay for it. So that's the, that's the rub. And that's straight off the judge's sheet. So a lot of what you see a lot of the teams do is they just go right down this sheet and go, okay, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the product, here's the market opportunity, here's how we're going to segment the customers, here's the sales strategy and our marketing plan, here's the competitors, and here are the financials. So, you might want to think about this because that's what the judges are looking at as well. Then decided to come up with what are the top 10 habits of the most successful B-Launch teams. Their best speaker led off, from what I could tell. Not everybody spoke, right? They came in with something more. And you'll see this as we start going through some of the actual clips. They had a video, they had a demo, they had some pre-sales. There's an indirect or direct relationship to the idea. And by that I mean, for example, in Be Free, there was somebody on the team. It's a gluten-free product. On the team, there was somebody who was celiac, right? In the Follow and Fun team, there was somebody who was a teacher, and they were actually there was a solution that was being offered to high school kids. So there was always something that seemed to kind of mesh with somebody on the team, or maybe a mentor or something that would help the team. Their ideas were easy to understand. They were quick on the ideas. They had lots of facts. They made it seem like it was a fait accompli, and by that I mean they made it sound like, hey, if you don't invest in us right now, we're going. So it's up to you. You make the decision. They were always succinct. They all looked interested, and they all wore suits. So take that for what it is. I don't know about the suits thing. Maybe a tie is fine, whatever. But everybody's been doing that. Okay, so let's go into some of the examples. For example, on the mission.
We are aggregated. Our mission is to identify and reduce agricultural inefficiencies by leveraging emerging technologies.
So that was a mission that it was difficult to understand, right? But you're kind of hoping, and these guys they come back around it, and they kind of explain to you what they're saying, because that's a big market, right? So they're saying this is our mission, but we're going to come at it this way. So I think that's a really good way of approaching it, is you can throw something big and then say, I'm going to come at it, and this is what I'm going to do.
Our company is Follow and Fund, and our mission is to empower students to redefine the way that their education is funded. Now, at a very high level, Follow and Fund allows students to post information about their educational goals and to receive funding. Okay,
so again, big market, but they're going to show you how they're going to come at it in a particular way. So that's the mission. So a lot of people, some companies don't throw the mission out there. Some companies do throw the mission out there. That's really up to you guys what you want to do. But it's really good. It kind of, when you kind of start off with it, it kind of encapsulates what you're trying to accomplish from an overall standpoint, right? And you might just, say, if you're going to do it, this is what we plan on doing. Here's how we plan on doing it, right? Our mission, is global dominance. Okay, well, that's great, but how are you going to get there, right? And it's up to you to then convince the judges how you're going to get there in this particular way. So that's the mission. So let's just go into now the problem. Let's go to the problem. What problem are you solving? So check please, Mad Cow, and we might go faster through these.
The problem with the food industry and the restaurant industry right now is that we actually don't spend our time eating there. We actually spend it waiting. On average, when we're waiting at the end of our meal, we spend 10 minutes waiting for someone else to have our credit card. And we gladly hand that credit card to them, and it disappears for 10 minutes of our life. Now, with everything else that we've been doing with grocery shopping, we swipe. We need gas, we just plug and pull. But at restaurants, we hand over our life.
So I don't know if you noticed that, but there were two problems that he mentioned right there, and this is something you have to think about. The first problem he mentioned was waiting. you don't want to wait at a restaurant and just wait around till somebody gets to you, right? Well, that's one problem. But then the other problem, he said, well, the problem is that you hand your credit card over to somebody and now they take it. So now which problem we were trying to address? So, so be succinct in what your problem is, right? Because you want to tell me this is my problem, and this is how I'm going to address it. Now they get to the point where they say the problem is you have to wait for 10 minutes, and they go back and forth between these two different problems. Is 10 minutes really that much? Now you got to convince me that 10 minutes is a lot, and they try to do that as well. So let's keep watching this.
Now, what can we do with those 10 minutes? And what can we do? Well, here's the thing. With those 10 minutes, multiplied by the 200 times that we go out to eat, that's 33.3 hours that a stranger has our credit card.
So is it the time, again, is it the 33 hours that I'm waiting, or is it the credit card is with somebody that, I'm going back and forth trying to understand which is the problem.
I don't know about you, but I don't feel like sending somebody on a vacation for 40 hours using my credit card.
And we went up to 40. As quickly as that. It's amazing how that happens. Again, stay with your slide, right? Stay with it. Well, they were going to get 10,000 anyway, so they knew it, so it doesn't really matter. They can make some mistakes.
We went to a conference where they were having board games and card games. We started asking questions and mentioning some ideas that we were considering to base a business off of. We came across this guy named Casey, and Casey started to explain to us his game idea and how the difficulties he was having launching the game. And then we realized that we could actually design the next hit tabletop game through using an interactive crowdsourcing model. When we started talking with Casey, the problem started to get a little bit clearer. Now, the problem is that the tabletop game development market is antiquated and it restricts innovation. If Casey decides that he wants to publish a game, or he wants to go and develop a game, he could go to Hasbro's, or he could go to Mattel, or to Days of Wonder, the various big box creating tabletop game companies.
So this is going to take another 3 minutes, and it shouldn't take you that long to describe the problem. So that's the one thing I wanted to get across here. Let's go to the next. The problem should be right in my face, and I should be able to see it really quickly.
Now, spoiler alert, we don't solve the problem of world hunger here this morning. But every big problem is really just 100 smaller problems. The problem that our group decided to focus on was the problem of information overload. Agricultural information has reached a tipping point. The bigger the haystack of data grows, the harder it is for farmers to find the needle of relevant information. Bill Whitaker, CEO of Simplot, told our group that there are over 15 trillion data points related to weather alone. Each one of those would be useful for every farmer to know. But no farmer has time to look through 15 trillion data points, much less make sense of them. T.S. Eliot, the famous poet, identified this problem almost 100 years ago when he wrote, "Where is the wisdom we've lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we've lost in information?"
I'm not sure that you would want to bring up T.S. Eliot in the presentation, but I think they were trying to show the problem as being the big data problem that a lot of the farmers are having, and how they are going to address that problem. And then they kind of go into that. I think the other thing that was interesting about that one is this is the first, or maybe one of the first teams I've seen actually using a cheat sheet, and kind of looking at it. They obviously didn't really hurt them because they actually, they won it, but that can be kind of risky, because if no one else is doing it, you might have a little bit of an issue. But they had a lot of knowledge, and they weren't directly reading from it. It was refreshing whatever recollection they might have had with regard to that particular topic. So it was mitigated by that, but still, it was something totally different than I had seen before. And then the last one is be free.
So to kind of frame the discussion and to put the problem that we're going to be addressing into context, I want you to take a moment and think about the people in your life that are dealing with some sort of dietary restriction or a food allergy, you might say. Now, you might be one of these people, or maybe there's somebody close to you in your immediate family. For me, I have a mother-in-law who is celiac, and both my wife and sister are gluten intolerant. It's a very difficult lifestyle for them, particularly for my mother-in-law. So when she goes to a restaurant, she has to carefully vet that restaurant to make sure they have a gluten-free option on their menu.
So again, see how he's relating? Several things are happening right there. A story is coming in. He's bringing his family into it. He's actually he's telling the judges that I know, and this is not the only person that there was actually somebody on there that was celiac. They're basically telling the judges that we know all about this because we're experiencing it. And so now, they're kind of positioning themselves as experts in this particular field.
But if she doesn't know their kitchen staff and know how they've been trained, she still can't trust it to not cross-contaminate her food, so she'll choose not to eat there. Now imagine somebody who's gluten-free and they're traveling. The problems just get compounded. You might have a 3-hour delay in the airport. And then when you get to your final destination, you have a client meeting at a restaurant that you're unfamiliar with, and you finally check into your hotel at 10:30 at night, and you look in the minibar and there's nothing there that you can eat. That is the target market we're going to be going after as a company.
So we can go to the next one. Again, taking the judges through a problem and making me relate to it, because people get to their hotels late at night and they have nothing to eat, and if you're a celiac, then what do you do? So great way of kind of leading the judges into a problem, and basically you could see a lot of the judges kind of nodding that there is a problem. So let's see some of the solutions, and maybe we'll just go to just a couple of them.
To combat this information overload, our team has developed a cloud-based web platform that aggregates, distills, and delivers real-time, relevant information to farmers in a single, customizable, user-friendly platform. We developed a demo to show some of the functionality and features of our platform, so let's go ahead and sign in. To do that, we go to aggregated.com. Thank you. Tech support I didn't know about.
Anyway, they led us through the demo, and we were able to see exactly what their product was that they were going to actually go out with. Let's go to Mad Cow.
And that's where we step in, Mad Cow Games, with our solution. In order to solve this and make it so that innovation isn't restricted, that a lot of the games aren't repeats and redesigns of existing games, which is the current marketplace, we have Casey. And Casey comes with his idea to our website. Here's how the website works.
Okay, so now we're not seeing a website. It's a little more difficult because the judges now have to visualize what this website might look like. And now he's going to lead us through that process.
There's some drag and drop technology where he can actually create his game online for people to play. And he can add some design elements to it as well. So on his side, it's very, very, very streamless, very easy. And he can send it out to people on the website. Now, the first step for him is to have some input on his idea so that he can have a testing market where people can communicate with him on what they think about his idea. And after they get that, we'll send it out on the complete website for everyone to test. So we have subscribers that join in, they can play the game, they can test it, and they can provide feedback to the game. We will be able to see all the feedback so we can start to see some trends that are developing on the game. The reason why people want to jump in and do this is because people care about creating their idea. And then we get to the fourth step, which is going to be game versus game, where people will vote on the game that they want to see published, or their favorite game, and then we will produce that game.
That's a lot. It's a big, big deal. If they had actually come in somewhere around here and basically say, hey, we're going to outsource the manufacturing or something, this is a big endeavor. And we're getting ready to give out 20 or 10,000, and as a judge, you're overwhelmed with how difficult this process might be for any particular team to engage in. So we can come out of the let's come out of the solution, and we'll go into let's see what's next. Competitors. That's pretty quick.
There are some direct competitors in this space. The first of them being Grade Fund. Now, based on our research, if you look at Grade Fund, they have a really narrow focus. It's in the name alone. Grade Fund. They only fund based on grades. And as we all, I'm sure, are very aware, sometimes when students need that money the most isn't necessarily when they're getting A's, B's, and C's, but when they're having those small struggles. It also is an issue that they can only get at the end of the semester, right? They upload their transcript. That's a one-time fee, one-time sum of money that they get. It doesn't allow them to have those incurred expenses throughout their education.
So we can go to the next one. This is only to kind of show you that if you're going to have competitors more than likely, and you want to hit those competitors straight on and explain what the difference is between you and your competitors. Because you don't want, unless this is so novel and you're going to basically say that nobody else has ever thought about it, you don't want to leave the impression that, hey, there's all these other competitors out there, but we think we're better. Because there'll be a lingering doubt in the judges' minds, and they want to make sure that you've actually thought about how you would compete in the marketplace.
Before we came up with this service, though, we wanted to make sure that there was actually a need for it in the market. One of the easiest ways to do that is to look out at the market and see if anybody is doing something similar to this already. What we found is that this market is still very young. There are 3 main startups throughout the US that are doing something similar to what we're planning to do right here. In New York, there's a company called Pay with Cover. Their model is built around going to each individual business and building a customized solution for that project. That makes it so that it's very difficult for them to scale on a quick basis. And Tabbed Out is a company out of Illinois, and their model is based on collecting research, selling that to the company. And then Dash is a company out of Atlanta that they take their product, and after you pay through it, they push marketing and sales through an app, which I don't know about you, but I don't like things being sent to me a lot, so that can make it pretty annoying.
So there are 3 competitors. Who do you think they left off? Apple Pay? Or Square. I mean, there's a lot more competitors in this market, right? When you're sitting there and you just sit there with your app and check out. I mean, so, but they got the 10,000. So you want to be careful that you do address everything that's out there, even something as important as Apple Pay, because you don't want because there may be somebody in one of the judges that may know more about it than you think, and so you don't want to throw something out there and have that judge then later on say to the rest of the judges, this is never going to work, because that's happened before, where one judge just kiboshed an entire team's presentation because they didn't believe that would ever work. So let's go to the next market size.
So first I want to talk to you guys about the market size. Other than the fact that it's quite large, there are 2.1 million farms in the United States alone. According to our research and a study that we found by USA Today, we found that we found that 94% of farmers actually use smartphone devices. So we feel that was a more accurate portrayal of what our actual total available market would be.
Okay, so I wasn't sure what the market size was. Was it the number of farms? Because that's actually a kind of a captive group, right? Are you going to go past that? Or is it anybody using any farmer that has a cell phone, but does that more than 2.1? I mean, so you're kind of like, so just be careful when you're starting to size your market, because after that we don't hear anything more about the market. So you need to really size it correctly just to figure out exactly what you're trying to impress upon the judges. This is the market, and this is how big it is, and it's got to be a really big market, right? Because if it doesn't work for the farmers don't adopt it, then what? Right? I mean, what's your pivot? It's a really good idea. So I think, I mean, that held up. But again, try to figure out what your market size is, and then stay in that. And if that's your relevant market, then you have to tell us, well, why is this more relevant than the market you just pointed out right before this?
So I'm sure the question everybody has is, what is the market opportunity, and how are we gonna sell this? So in Boise itself, we did a research to understand how big is this problem. We did a sampling of approximately 100 companies in Boise and found out that 57 out of 100 companies did not have an online payment solution. That's over half of the companies in the Treasure Valley. So to take that a little further, we dug into specifically one trade to see how big that problem was. So let's take lawn care companies, for example.
Let me stop here. So he comes out with the fact that there's 57 out of 100 that don't have an online payment scheme on their website. But then he goes to lawn care companies, which to me, when you start thinking lawn care companies, I'm not sure that's the right demographic I would choose to actually start sizing something when you start getting so focused in, because then you start, in my mind, I'm like, are lawn care companies, do they really, I mean, do they have really sophisticated websites? And are we, most of the time you're just handing cash over to whomever. I mean, so suddenly we went from what I thought was really good, and then the attempt to narrow it actually loses a little luster, I think. Because you could have gone with another broader, much more, a bigger group that I would then say, or the judge might say, hey, yeah, I can see where this industry would actually definitely use this online payment service. So we could finish it out if you want to.
275 lawn care companies in the Boise metro area. 90%, the number even gets bigger when you look at the individual trades. Small service businesses. These people do not have an online payment system. How does this product grow? Well, we can look at markets such as Seattle, 600 lawn care companies. 85% of those companies do not have an online payment system. Portland, same scenario. 515 companies, 85% without an online solution. As you can see, the problem is huge. And currently, there's not a solution out there but ours to make this problem go away. Again,
If you're going to use lawn care companies, you got to convince me, because I'm not really sure what you're talking about. If this is an individual who's going around, if that's who you're counting in this in this group of companies, is that person really going to pay for something? Are they going to really pay for your system? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're going to start targeting it down like this, make sure that you're also ready to convince us all that that's important. That's important material, and you just didn't go from some big number to some smaller number that I have less credibility in. So let's come out of that and go to. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going through this really fast. But is this helpful? That we're kind of going through it, and you can kind of see, and you can probably see it yourselves. Why I'm putting it up here, and what are some of the dynamics that are happening with some of these teams and how they're presenting.
So what's our go-to-market strategy? There's a lot more detail about this in the packets, but I'll kind of go over mainly the first year. Our development cycle is going to be sped up by the fact that we have a developer on our team, and we also have partnered with another developer to help take us through that process more quickly. We have our channel partners in place, which will be providing immediate sources of revenue through those sponsored apps and those sorts of things, as well as access to end users through their networks. And then we have a relationship built with Boise State University. They're going to be doing our market research. And
again, I mean, can you see how they've been able to weave in certain things, into this. Now they've thrown in, they have a developer. These are all cues that are coming at the judges, right? They now have Boise State that they're partnered with, and I mean, I'm not sure if anybody asked them, well, what does that partnership look like? And what's going on with the IP with that partnership? But again, it's all it's all information coming at the judges to show that they've thought through exactly what it is they're going to be doing. And here's our, our stable of partners and companies and developers that are going to be helping us with this particular problem. I think that was the great thing about how they approached this and how they were able to throw stuff in there to show their expertise in this particular area.
I currently work for a point-of-sale software company based out of Boise, Idaho.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about direct, indirect relationships. So she's now talking, they're talking about this payment system that they've got, payment provider system, and now we've got one of their teammates basically saying, hey, I work for one, so look at me, right? So that resonates really well with the judges, because suddenly you're like, well, wait a minute, if they can figure it out, she can figure it out. Or they got somebody on there that's an expert. So notice how they're dropping stuff in here to cue up the judges to decide in their favor.
I work with customers on a day-to-day basis, helping them make their restaurants more efficient and easier for their customers and the waitstaff to use. I believe that there is a market for this application.
So she's now set herself up as an expert, and now she's basically, it's like being in trial, right? You set yourself up as an expert, and now she's basically said, this is going to work, right? So now, unless there's a judge there that knows something about it, it's like, wow, that sounds really great. 10,000, here you go.
$683.4 billion are spent in the restaurants in over 990,000 restaurants across the U.S. each year. 81% of those transactions are made via credit card. We believe that as we move into the digital currency, that we can take advantage of this. We plan to start in Idaho to take advantage of this. We have had opening conversations with 2 point-of-sale software companies, POS Lavu, a point-of-sale software company that's based solely on tablets, and Canvas Solutions, a point-of-sale software company based out of Boise, Idaho.
Again, notice how we've already started discussions. I'm an expert in this field. I know these people. We can start partnering up with them.
Like I said, I currently work for Canvas Solutions. I work with over 230 restaurants in Idaho on a day-to-day basis. And we believe that we can seamlessly integrate with a point-of-sale software company in order to make this more user-friendly and easier for the restaurant to turn tables. We plan to start in Idaho, and by the second year move on to other states. Chase is now going to tell you how we plan to do this.
Let's go to the Mad Cow games.
We have a customer acquisition cost of $1.52 per customer. And we're basing that off of accumulating $75,000 that we're going to be contributing to marketing throughout our revenue model, and then just dividing that by 50,000 subscribers.
Okay, so wait. Can we go back? Because I'm still confused. I think I might have heard this like 3 times. So
We have a customer acquisition cost of $1.52
so his customer acquisition cost is $1.52. Okay.
per customer. And we're basing that off of accumulating $75,000 that we're going to be contributing to marketing throughout our...
$75,000 going to contribute to marketing. Is going to get them customers $1.52.
revenue model, and then just dividing that by 50,000 subscribers.
50,000 subscribers. So I guess that's 50 times 152. So that's so remember they can only get 20,000 in this, and now he's talking about numbers which is a customer acquisition cost of 152 plus 50,000. We've just blown through the 20,000, right? So just be careful if you're going to throw out big numbers like that. Don't throw them out like, don't just throw them out because you think those are really big numbers. You're going to get 50,000. You want to be methodical, and you remember you're getting $20,000, so you might want to start a lot smaller than that, and then come up to the bigger number, because suddenly everybody's sitting there thinking, is that 75,000? Is that marketing? And then we need some additional money. Is the customer acquisition cost seems pretty high?
For funding, what do we need to start this business? We've met with Drake & Cooper and discussed kind of how much money it would cost to create a website that we need. And it's going to be about $30,000 to build the website. There are some corners that can be cut, but we would prefer $30,000. which will allow for user interface, databases, and the drag and drop system that we talked about so that people could create the game board for other people to play.
Okay, so again, 30,000 to build a website, and they're only going to get 20,000. I mean, right there, you got a problem, right? And 5,000 now in marketing costs. But what happened to the 75,000 in marketing to get the 50,000 clients at $1.50? I'm getting all confused. So let's come off of this one.
Looking at the economic picture of FrogPaw, we've modeled out the user, both the user adoption rate and the paid user adoption rate. Because remember, since we're a freemium model, 80% of our customers are going to be non-paying, right? But we modeled out the user base using comparables in the space, most notably Doodle. And any of you are familiar with Doodle, it's a scheduling platform. Well, they made their user numbers available, and we were able to model a user adoption rate based on a comparable in the space. We also used comps in the space to derive revenue per customer, attrition rates, variable cost per user, and we were able to project out our revenue. And it's important to note that these are monthly figures. So at the end of year 3, we're doing roughly 1.5 million a month.
So just be really careful that if you're going to present this thing, present it in a way that's really easy for the judges to understand, and not throw so much information at the judges that they get all confused with all the financial information that you're providing to them. So let's come out of this. Competitors, market size. Tips and tricks, simplify it. You know, you want to, don't make it so complicated. Take your slides and then simplify it so that it's really easy for the judges to understand and to communicate to everybody. Because the last thing you want to do is to make it more complicated, and they're looking up at something and they're trying to understand what you're saying from the slides, and you're saying something totally different. So when you're putting your slides together, make sure that it's easy to understand, it's quick. Don't put a lot of words on there. I don't know, put some graphics. You might want to think about a video. You might want to think of something else, going to a demo if that's what you're going to do. But make it so that it's easy and it sinks in with what you're talking about. To sell it, I think you should always use your name a lot if you have one, and just keep throwing it out there. It's okay to go fast, because when people go fast, I mean, I think there's some studies that basically say if you go fast, it makes people think that you're really excited about your product, right? But you don't go too fast that they don't even understand what you're saying. So just kind of, pick up the speed, be excited about it, and if you're really excited about it, you're going to get everybody excited about it as well. Knowledge is key. Throw out a lot of facts, because everybody wants to know that you're prepared, and really check for typos in your presentation before you even put anything out there. Just make sure that it's all cleaned up, because the last thing you want is to have a whole bunch of typos, and then you get dinged because of that.